Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Nathan Ott podcast. We're lucky enough to be joined by Luke Coulson, Bromley winger, played for Ebbsfleet for a bit as well. Also started his career at Man City, was a part of the V9 Academy with Jamie Vardy. So Luke, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. How you been coping during lockdown? Obviously it's better with the sun out today, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been difficult for everyone, and there's a lot of people in worse situations than myself, so you can't really get too beaten up. But I've just been doing obviously the workouts that we've been sent from Bromley and just kind of ticking over. Obviously, still waiting to hear what's going to happen with the leagues. So yeah, it's just a waiting game, really.
Mm. And in terms of your football career, I believe you started your youth career at Man City. How did you get into football?
Yeah, it was just playing on a weekend really. Joining an under six, under sevens team in my local area, where I was, fortunately watched by Man City, who invited me to join um, a trialing process at the age of 7, and then I was signed to their under 18 after a 6-week period of having trials.
Was it difficult to leave City after being there for sort of 10 years?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, when you're at a club for so long, and I saw so many players come in and out, and I was still there in my final year with 2 other players that had been there for 10 years as well, and obviously, we were there before. Uh, you know, Man City were bought, so we'd kind of seen the club develop, even though obviously it was from a young age to the age of 18, but we were there, and I was there when it was main road, and so it was great seeing it develop, but then always painful to say goodbye.
Mm. And looking back on it now, would you have done anything different at City?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I had 1 or 2 fallings out with managers when I should have just kept my mouth shut. And you always wonder what would I have done. What would have happened if I'd stayed 20 minutes extra and 30 minutes doing this and spoke to the right person at the right time, and what if I hadn't made that mistake? So of course there's loads of things that I would have done differently, and maybe that would have got me a professional contract on the next stage.
And then you left City and you actually enrolled in the Michigan University. What was it like? Obviously, you were only there for a month. But what was it like going to America?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I had quite a few trials around England after Man City, but it was towards the end of the season. So I went to the likes of Burnley and Stoke, Leeds, and some of the trials went really well. Also, I thought, but nothing really happened. So it got to a point there I was kind of thinking what I was going to do, and they pitched me an offer that was, it felt good to be wanted again. They told me that how much they wanted me. I was going to get a full scholarship. I wouldn't have to pay for a penny. It was all going to be rolled out for me. So, and that was great. And then when I was over there, I met some amazing people. I loved my initial time. But then it just I kind of started to work out how the program was really going to work in regards to time to studying football. And as much as I loved the guys on the team, there was still a divide, as some of them were there due to, not the love of the game and wanting to play football, but rather they were getting scholarship, and obviously mums and dads wanted them to be on the team because that was helping towards their scholarship rather than them wanting to be there. So, they still had other passions like American football and, all that kind of stuff. So when Stoke showed some interest in me again, it was a no-brainer to come back for me.
What was it like, obviously, coming back and then getting involved with Stoke, obviously, with the reserves and stuff?
Yeah, no, like I said, it was great. Obviously I came back from a situation where it was great to play. And like I said, I felt like a big part of their puzzle, if you like. And that's why I'm grateful for them, because they gave me a bit of, they helped me find my self-confidence again after the knockback of City and then Leeds and Stoke and Burnley and all these teams saying, no, we don't want you. It was great. And to come back to full time and obviously be close to my family again and be around football 24/7, it was great. I was offered a contract by Stoke, but it just so happened that at the same time, Cardiff were interested in what Cardiff could offer and where I would stand within the football club. It was a much better decision for me to go there.
Mm. And obviously, you spoke about joining Cardiff. How did it feel to be part of Cardiff?
Yeah, no, I loved my time at Cardiff. It was amazing. Like I said, I played in a trial game, won 4-0, played really well. Malky Mackay came down into the change room, said he was going to offer me a contract the next day, and that was it. He made me feel like he saw the potential and wanted me to be part of the club. So that was, again, a no-brainer. Trained with the first team at times. I was always made to feel, like I was improving, and he was always very approachable. And so I could see a pathway to develop, especially with my under-21s coach, Kevin Cooper, who was fantastic. So yeah, I loved my time at Cardiff, and it was a shame it came to the end eventually. But yeah, no, I got a lot of respect for the players and the staff and the club in general.
Were you a little bit disappointed that you didn't make as many opportunities with the first team that you maybe would have liked?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think that's going to be, whenever you leave a club, especially at the age I was, definitely. It just so happened we had obviously a lot of change of managers, and then obviously Solskjaer came in and Malky Mackay before. The promotion to the Premier League never really helps young players, because that they're just going to reinvest all this money that they've got from the Premier League, which is what happened. So I went from potentially a third choice right back with a chance to develop, and all of a sudden we went and brought in Fabio De Silva from obviously United came in. We had a French right back come in, and we also signed another right back. So all of a sudden I was fifth, sixth choice. All because a few signings didn't work out because the money was there. So, in hindsight, the promotion for Cardiff was amazing, but probably not amazing for us younger players that obviously had chances to potentially play in cup competitions and with the budget scenario.
And then you had trials at Hibs and Ebbsfleet. Was it frustrating not to get in there?
Yeah, massively. I think I had a 6 to 7 month period of literally just driving up and down the country, and it's one of those that I've written about it, on some blogs and stuff about trials, and sometimes you get into places because it's a favour from your agent, from a manager to an agent, oh look, I can't get him in anywhere, can you just take him for a few days? But you don't know that. You go in there thinking they're interested, so even if you do really well, there's not always a chance that you're going to get signed because it was just a favour. And you have to suss that out. You have to suss out where the opportunities are really. And sometimes I was doing that on my own and trying to create my own look. I remember when, after 3 or 4 months and I was sat at home after 7 or 8 trials, and I sent an email. I got every club's email from League 1, League 2 and down, and sent everybody an email with my CV and clips. I got a few answers. I got a few, oh, thank you for that, we'll pass it on. But I didn't actually get any replies from it, but at least I tried, I guess. And then obviously it just so happened that I actually went and played a few games for Radstock Borough, which is in the Somerset division. Literally turned up, was handed a shirt, played in my own shorts, got £5 for petrol though for turning up. And I actually played 2 games for them just because I was just missing football and I just wanted to kick a ball about. And then fortunately I got a phone call from Oxford City in the January that they just said, we knew you were on trial at Oxford United in December. We know it didn't work out. Do you want to come down here? We've heard good things about you. We'll put you on a non-contract. And that was the beginning again.
Obviously, you mentioned you obviously had a long time at Man City and Cardiff. How tough was that 6 months? Obviously, you mentioned going on the trials. Where are you thinking, where are these next opportunities going to come from?
Yeah, no, it was very mentally tough. That's when I started my degree in sports writing and broadcasting, just because after 2 months of not having a club, I discussed it with my mum and dad and knew that I needed to start my education again, just in case, which is why I did that. And having not been able to train anywhere or play any games, I had a lot of spare time, which was brilliant for my degree. But yeah, no, Cardiff was still excellent with me during that time. They allowed me to go back and train a few days with the current 21s team, which obviously I knew the majority of them. And they were great with me. And I'll always be grateful for that. They didn't have to do that. And they even let me play one or two friendly games. It just in between my trials that, obviously didn't work out. Like I said, some of the trials I thought went really well, and I was appreciative, and they gave me game time as well. And some were just, without mentioning clubs and stuff, were just abysmal. But yeah, so it was mentally tough, and obviously kept having to go home. Now rejected again. It was tough, but obviously everything happens for a reason, I guess.
And by this time, you'd played in quite a few different levels. What did you find was different about the levels?
Pitches. The pitches. That's the biggest difference, the pitches. I think that it just kind of gets obviously a little bit more professional every step you go. And it's the tiny details that you notice more. It's the turning up on an away day, how the kit's laid out, everything's there. The members of staff, you go from having 2 members of staff to 7 members of staff. And it's all those tiny little details. Bring your own lunch. Higher up the leagues, pre-match is sorted at a nice hotel for you. It's just all the tiny little details, that go into it. But obviously, again, facilities and pitches and that kind of stuff, obviously, gets better and better, as the higher you go.
So you mentioned signing for Oxford City. Was it a bit of a culture shock, obviously, going from sort of Man City and Cardiff to Oxford, or was it just delighted to be back in football?
I'd say it was a little bit of both, but it wasn't a massive culture shock for me, considering that I'd obviously been on trials at League Two clubs, and then I'd just played a few games for Radstock Borough in my own kit. It was nothing new to me. I don't think. But obviously, turning up at Oxford City, we trained 2 nights a week in your own training gear, and I'd never trained at nights before. I'd never been part-time. That was something new for me, which I enjoyed. And the team was excellent. And then obviously we, played a game on a Saturday. So they were brilliant. They put me up in a hotel. They gave me some training gear. They allowed me to train in the days with a few other players. Not everyone did, but, we did with a young academy group. And that helped me. And I just found my love for the game again at Oxford. And that first 6 months with Oxford were brilliant.
And then I believe you signed for Eastleigh for a record fee. Did you feel pressure by this?
No, not at the time. I didn't actually really, know too much about it. I mean, how it came about was I signed after 6 months with Oxford, which had gone really well. I was still kind of new to, the leagues. I didn't really know anybody else in the league. I actually played against Ebbsfleet a few times for Oxford City. Didn't know any of the Ebbsfleet players. Didn't know that Ebbsfleet had invested all this money. Didn't even know who was the big hitters. And I just arrived in January. Didn't know anything about anybody. Didn't know any other names. No people, no managers, no nothing. So for me, I was just going in there to play football. So whereas everybody knew about other people and knew the backstories and knew what was going on, it was just kind of a clean slate for me. And it was the same when Eastleigh bought me. I didn't know anything about the National League, and that's just me being honest. I'd never played in that level. I'd never been on loan at that level. I didn't know anything. I couldn't have told you the teams in the league. So for me, when I signed the contract extension for Oxford, that was great. And Oxford obviously realised how well I'd done for them. They put me on another year. Eastleigh came in January. And I believe Eastleigh actually put 3 or 4 offers in, which was obviously a compliment. When I signed for Eastleigh, that was when I started to speak to different people and started to do my own research in regards to the league. But again, that was just me wanting to move up the leagues, knowing there was a pathway to get back to where I was. And joining Eastleigh was obviously a great stepping stone for me to try and move back up the leagues.
You performed really well at Eastleigh. What would you put that down to? You scored a lot of goals and was getting a lot of attention from EFL clubs again.
I think it was just a great bunch of people. I don't think, obviously Stuart Donald was the chairman, who then went on to buy Sunderland. So when I remember first walking in the door, and he was hilarious, and a really, really down to earth, just a person that you could just chat to and get along with. So as soon as I walked in, and people like Joe Partington, James Rees and Andy Drury, people like that were very welcoming, and I got on with the team initially very well, which helped me settle in. I think I started to find form towards the end of the season with Eastleigh, scored a few goals. Then I got a bad ankle injury, so I missed about 6 or 7 games. Missed the start of pre-season the following year, and Ronnie Moore, by the time I played my first game, Ronnie Moore had actually come in as manager. And to be fair, as soon as I was back fit, he played me. And within the first 5 games, I'd got 6 goals and an assist to my name. And I was playing really well. And again, that was just from not caring, really. I just wanted to play football. I was with a bunch of people that I classed as friends, who I enjoyed training with, who I enjoyed playing games with. And it was just no pressure, just go and play. That was great for me. And like I said, I really did enjoy my time at Eastleigh before the problems started to happen. Ronnie Moore was obviously relieved of his duties, and then Martin Allen came in, who I didn't always see eye to eye with in regards to his playing style, and he dropped me to the under-18s, just to try and prove a point. And it was just, there was just so much went on, and I think the turnover of players under Martin Allen from the start of the season was like 50, 60 players had come in and out from the beginning of the season to when Martin Allen left. And it was just the club that I signed for was unrecognisable a year later when I left.
I don't know if you were at Oxford or Eastleigh when obviously you got the attention of V9. What was it like being a part of the sort of the V9 Academy? I've seen the documentary, you were a part of that. What was it like obviously being part of that? Obviously a lot of other non-league players there as well.
Yeah, again, I just kind of saw it as a bit of a compliment that they obviously wanted me to be part of it. And obviously, David Vardy's, he's a legend. He's a legend not only of the National League, but of the Premier League as well. So, that was fantastic. And it came around the time that I got my call up to the England C team. So it was brilliant for me. It felt like I was moving just from one thing to the next. And like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed helping with the documentary, going to the premiere and everything. That was brilliant. Unfortunately, I didn't actually get to take part with the V9 Academy in the summer because I moved to Barnet, and obviously it was only for National League players, not League Two. So, but up to that point, I loved everything I did.
And then you moved to Barnet, and at the time they were in League Two. How was it to be back in the Football League?
Well, obviously that was weird for me because I didn't actually technically ever play in the Football League. So this was actually my first experience of it, but I was still getting back to where I wanted to be and seeing it as a stepping stone. So unfortunately, I had the choice between Lincoln and Barnet, and in hindsight, clearly made a massive mistake. Should have worked with the Cowley brothers at Lincoln, which obviously, everything they did at Lincoln and everything they've gone on to would have been an amazing experience. And like I said, went for the League Two club instead of the National League club. And I should have took a sideways step rather than a forward step, because then obviously those you know, those roles actually ended up reversing when, you know, Lincoln got promoted and then Barnet ended up down with us. So yeah, obviously that was a regret and a mistake. But like I said, I went into Barnet with the right attitude, knowing that where I wanted to go. Unfortunately, again, like my time at Eastleigh, Barnet, you know, the first manager departed, second manager took over. He was only there for 10 games, Rossi Eames. Next manager came in for 4 games at the end of the season. And it was just the turnover of managers. I experienced 3 managers within the space of 4 months. So it's hard to find your feet at a club that's going through that many changes themselves to try and find answers. And I didn't know where I fitted in. I didn't felt like I fitted in at any place at Barnet.
As you obviously mentioned, you didn't get, well, you played games, but you kind of struggled a little bit with Barnet. And obviously, would you put that down to obviously the manager turnover and just not feeling the part of that because there's so many managers coming in and out?
Yeah, definitely. I think the lads at Barnet were brilliant. You know, there was some great personalities there. People that I got on with, like Dave Titonda and Simeon Akinola and Dan Sweeney. There were people there and the Taylor brothers. They were fantastic. You know, and again, you have to look at your own performance and say, was I good enough? Was I doing everything in training? I mean, when I first arrived, I don't think I featured in the first few games. I was coming off the bench. And then the first 4 games I actually played for the club, I was dragged off at half-time every time. Do I think my performances were good enough in those 4 games? Probably not in every single one. Did I deserve to be dragged off at half-time in every game? Absolutely not. You know, so if we were losing, I was the scapegoat every time. You know, and again, you know, the managers see what they see. And obviously I've got an opinion of it, but you know, like I said, I remember playing an away game and I'd actually played well for the first 45 minutes, but because we were losing, I was dragged off. So, and that's the relationship that I soon looked at myself, and obviously my confidence dipped. Of course it would, with that happening. And then we had the managers turnover, and it was just so many problems all at once, especially for me personally. And yeah, so despite signing a 2.5-year deal come the summer, when there was a chance to get out of the club and start again, I didn't want to linger at a club that I didn't feel part of. You know, I wanted to, if I had to take a step back again to go forwards, I was going to do it. And obviously Ebbsfleet came in and were interested, and, you know, spoke to Andy Jory straight away, who was obviously a teammate from my Eastleigh days and someone that I trust. You know, and after numerous conversations with him and doing my research properly this time about a football club, that was a sensible move.
And then when you did sign, what did Darryl say to you? What was his ambitions?
Well, exactly what we set out for that season, to go and get promotion. Obviously, it was the first time in the National League. But again, I'd played in the National League, so I knew more about it. I'd played against players, teams. And like I said, I'd been with Andy Jory. You know, and Darryl McMahon just came across like a manager that had ambition, knew where he wanted to go, and played a style of football that would suit my, you know, skills and personality in general. So it was a much better fit. And straight away I fell at home at Ebbsfleet. The bunch of boys that season were absolutely amazing. You know, which I think showed probably throughout the whole season. And although we lost, fortunately, you know, so far through the season, I think a big part of the reason we got there was the team morale.
You obviously had a great year that year. I remember you scored some banging goals against. I remember that goal against Wrexham. Look at that goal against home against Solihull Moors. What was it like? Obviously, you struggled a little bit at Barnet, and then getting in there and just kind of doing really well in the National League again.
Yeah, again, I think it's just like feeling at home and obviously having that confidence lift. You know, I joined a bit way through pre-season. We played a Tottenham reserve team at home, which I felt, again, I played well in. I started finding my feet again. And the first game of the season, we actually drew 2-2.
Against Guiseley, I think.
Guiseley, correct.
And then you scored
Rooney. Yeah, Rooney was playing for them. I actually played right back that game initially, and Darren got 2 assists, drew 2-2. And although we drew, it was a good away point. I felt like I played well, you know, got the assist. And then the next home game we played Maidstone, first home game of the season, started me at right back. You know, and it was 0-0. We were probably the better team, but then he pushed me to left wing, and I ended up, you know, scoring and feeling, you know, like feeling that confidence again. 2 assists and a goal to start the season. We've just joined the league. We're on 4 points. That was huge for me, and especially for me to kind of put a marker down, you know, and for my teammates to look at me and go, okay, that's what he's about. Brilliant, you know. And that's what you want. You want to, and that's definitely what didn't happen at Barnet. You know, when you join a new club, you kind of want to set a marker down that other players look at and go, oh, brilliant. Oh, okay, he's, you know, this is his skill set. You know, and for something to happen like that can just change everybody's view of you straight away. You know, and that's when you start to feel part of a club. And, you know, that was brilliant for it to happen at Ebbsfleet.
And then we obviously got into the playoffs. How was the feeling around the camp when we got into the playoffs?
Do you know what? We actually went to Torquay on the final game of the season, and didn't really get the result we wanted. So I felt like we went into the playoffs actually a little bit disheartened at the fact that, you know, we've been on a run at the end of the season of winning, I think it was like 8 out of 10 games or unbeaten in 10 games. And the run of form that we were on, it was actually a bit disappointing not to win at Torquay. And then knowing the run that we were going to have to do in regards to 2 away games, 1 on a Wednesday, 1 on a Saturday. Tranmere were just sat there with a week of rest waiting for us, you know, and we've got two long away trips. It would, you know, the odds were always against us. They were always against us. You know, and I watched the highlights again the other night of the Aldershot game, you know, and to score so late, to be 3-1 down on penalties. We didn't, you know, when you look at the odds, we should never have got through that game. You know, were we the better team in the game? Probably. But when you think we were 3-1 down on penalties, we never, you know, that the possibility of us going through from that point was so slim. And to actually come through that again with that bunch of boys, it was just amazing. And then obviously, you know, like the morale was just so high going into that Tranmere game. And again, it was frustrating and it was disappointing, but, you know, that's football.
Obviously, you scored in that Tranmere game. What was the feeling like when you scored that? I think you came off like 2 minutes later. I think Ked's made a joke when he came on and said you should have stayed on. But yeah, you scored a great header. And then obviously being on the bench and then Miles, what was the feeling obviously when we got those 2 goals and we were leading for a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the header was just instinct, really. I mean, it was a great cross from Powley, and he usually was excellent at, you know, finding my run. And I think we did have a good relationship. And to score a header was weird. But yeah, leading up to that game, I'd been struggling with my back. And we actually went away to Gateshead towards the end of the season. And I must have gone down in the Gateshead game 3 or 4 times. And I remember Jay the physio coming on. And I was just down for, you know, a minute or 2 each time. And I wasn't running properly. You know, I didn't feel myself. And it's a lingering back problem that I've actually still got to this day that I'm just managing. And on that day, it was actually really hot. And for some reason, well, I actually wore my lucky boots that day, but they were studs. So the reason I didn't wear molds, due to the fact I wanted to wear my lucky boots, probably actually, you know, made the injury a lot worse, because obviously I was running on hard ground with metal studs. So the studs weren't going into the ground, which was probably affecting my back more. And I can't remember the moment it happened, but I just remember getting the shooting pain right up. And I remember trying to run it off for 2 minutes, and Darryl McMahon just looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Look, I'm trying." And he said, "You need to let me know if you can carry on, because you can't run like that. You can't move like this. We're playing with a man down." And I remember trying to carry on, but it just wasn't right. And then it was a decision where I just thought, I'm not, as much as I want to stay on this field, am I damaging the team? And Norwood had just equalised. So we'd just gone 1-1. And I thought, if I cost the team here and we end up losing, you know, this is all on me. And like you said, Miles Weston is fit, sat on the bench. So, you know, Miles Weston, 100% is better than me at 60%. You know, and that was, I do look back at it now and think, should I have just tried to hobble on for 10 minutes till half time, take a load of ping and just try and get on with it. Maybe I should have, and that's a question that I've got to ask myself. But I thought in that situation, with the pain that I was in during my back, that I was doing something good for the team. We ended up losing, and comments were made to me after the game, that I cost the team. I should have stayed on the pitch, but, that's the decision I made at the time.
Obviously, going into the season after, you played sort of 4 to 5 months with Flea, and I just think that season, just nothing really went your way. I think one game, Eastleigh away, I think you hit the post like a couple of times. It just felt like you weren't getting the sort of consistent football, and maybe like one game was sort of Worthing at home where you actually showing what you can do. Do you feel like that little sort of spell was a bit frustrating in the next season with Fleet?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously there was a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors, as we know. And towards the end of the season, the Torquay game, we were still unpaid. 2 weeks going on, we didn't know if we were going to be playing games or not. And it was a shambles, like towards the end of the season. And the fact that group of boys managed to get to the playoff semi-final and continue to perform at the levels that we did, despite everything that was going on behind closed doors, and despite not being paid, and people running out of contracts, that shows the morale of that team, and especially the staff to, keep us all together. So going into the next season, obviously we thought that was over and done with, and it just rolled on. It just rolled on right through pre-season, right through the start of this season. Nothing had changed. And then so instead of you being in a situation where you're looking at each other going, well, we've only got 5 games to go, we can get through this. You're all of a sudden looking at each other going, we've got 46 games. When's this going to stop? We can't carry on like that for a whole season. And everything that's happened with Ebbsfleet since, it just shows that. And I think everybody made the right decision in the end. That was a frustrating part of me, but again, that was a huge factor in the reason I left. And obviously McMahon left, and it was just dominoes. It was just a domino effect of who was going to leave next and when. Because nobody wanted to work under that environment and in that situation. And Darryl McMahon obviously came out and supported us, and he ended up losing his job. And as soon as you got rid of a manager that we all loved and respected in regards to what we'd nearly achieved and the morale of the team, that was just the floodgates then, like I said, it was frustrating in regards to the playing time. Obviously, Ibu Adams came in and Jack King came in, and we had a slight change in formation. And I did feel a little bit out of it. Obviously the staff and Darryl made their decisions to change the team and whatever. With everything going on, and then with obviously the team changing so dramatically, it was definitely the right time for me to go.
And then you went. What drew you to Bromley?
Neil Smith, I'd heard good things about in regards to him as a manager, him as his man management skills. Darryl McMahon, who I spoke with immediately, spoke very highly of him and what Bromley were doing at the football club in return in terms of building, a club to go forward. And to join a club like that from the club that you're in, where you think, oh my God, this could fall apart at any moment. It was a no-brainer for me to go. There was a few other clubs interested, but I'm getting married this year. We're settled, here. So you do have to take into consideration what's going on, obviously, away from football. And so that was definitely the best decision to join Bromley at that time.
Obviously, you done really well that half of the season with Bromley, and a lot of the sort of the ex-Ebbsfleet players came in. Obviously, Cheeky, Bush. What was it like, obviously, getting those sort of ex-Fleet players coming into Bromley as well at the end of that season?
Well, I mean, Bush is one of the best centre-backs I've played with. We always joke about it. He gets far too many yellow cards. He moans every time to a referee, and he can lose his head. But technically, and for his size and his left foot, he's one of the best centre-backs I've played with. So when Neil Smith came to me and said, look, we brought you in, we brought Zavon Hines in, we're rebuilding for next year. Is there anybody out there that you think could help this team? There was a few names immediately that I said, and becoming really good friends with Michael Cheek, knowing his situation. I mean, he never really got the game time under Daryl McMahon when he came in. And then Gary Hill started playing him just because he knew he was a natural goal scorer. It didn't really matter how he played or how he trained. He just knew he was going to score goals. And when you've got someone like that, you've got a chance. So to have both of them, two good friends of mine, and two fantastic players was huge for me personally and for Bromley.
And then this season, obviously, Bromley had a great start to the season, and at one point you were top of the league, and you was on a good cup run in the FA Cup. And then, what was it like in the dressing room at that point?
You go for everything. You go through phases. I mean, I remember when we made the playoffs, we didn't win for the first 10 games. We were just drawing left, right, and centre. But you take the positives from what you can. So it's the fact that we're not losing. So then you're right. Okay, brilliant. So you just try and move things forward. So we knew that we were unbeaten in 14 games. We knew we'd been lucky in a few. We'd scored last minute against Dagenham and Redbridge in like the 93rd minute, but we played well in the game. So again, you take the positives from it. The game that we ended up actually losing was probably the last game that we should have lost. I mean, we lost our goalkeeper, Mark Cousins, in the opening 10 minutes to an injury, and we didn't have a spare goalkeeper on the bench, which in hindsight, we should have 5 players on the bench or whatever. But Chris Bush went in goal. So we're playing with a centre-back in goal, against a Yeovil team that are one of the best teams in the league, away, in front of all their fans. It was always going to be a tough game, especially with a player in goal. So, that loss, and we actually took the lead in that game, but the loss, it probably made us closer because everything went against us that game. Everything went against us. Not only the referee that game was a shambles. I might even get, fined or whatever for saying that, but he was a shambles. And obviously we had a player in goal. So, that probably brought us together until like that Christmas period. And then we lost George Porter, we lost Mark Okoye, who had to retire. Mark Cousins was injured for 4 months. And we just started losing players. We had 3 loan signings who were absolutely fantastic when they came in, but they were all recalled. And Alfie Doherty from Charlton went on to then play for Charlton week in, week out. So did Romani Edwards. So we went back to Swindon. So we started losing players who had really helped us. So we had kind of like a mini rebuild during the season to replace 6 or 7 key players. And of course that didn't help. And we had a tough run. We played some great teams, including the likes of Yeovil at home, then Notts County, then we had Barrow. We had Harrogate at home, and we had big games at Barnet. So it probably came at a bad time. But we always, we were always a close-knit group, and we always knew that come the end of the season we had a great run of fixtures. I think we only played in our remaining fixtures. We only played 1 or 2 teams that were in the top half of the table. So as long as you're in and around it near the end of the season, and if you've got a good run of fixtures, you've got a chance, which is exactly what happened with us at Ebbsfleet. We went on such a fantastic run of form. We made the playoffs. So I still believe that we would have done that at Bromley, with how close it was and with our fixtures. But of course, it wasn't to be due to Corona.
Obviously, you've mentioned that sort of downturn in form. Was it difficult, obviously? So when you were in that form, I thought, obviously, you've got Bushy, you've got Cheeky, a goal scorer. The players you had, it looked like for Bromley they looked like you could do a title challenge really easily. But obviously, to slip down the table, losing the players you did, was it difficult? Obviously, in that period where you weren't picking up results and just thinking, when are the next points coming from?
Yeah, I mean, you do that all the time. Whenever you lose, you just think, next game, and then you lose again, and you just think, I mean, some games it's easy to point fingers and blame, but we lost a few games where we shouldn't have. Simple, factors down to some refereeing decisions were awful, some of this, some of that, and we lost players, we got injuries, or there was a poor red card, for us. So you can always nitpick and say, they're the factors. But yeah, no, it was definitely a case of we knew we were in a bit of bad form, and we had to do something about it. The last game of the season before it got called off, we went away to Harrogate, second in the table, a very, very strong team, and we got a 1-1 draw. So, again, you look at, we didn't win, but that's a massive building block and a massive away point to then, for our next home game. So yeah, you'd like to think we were slowly turning a corner towards the end of the season for then, a playoff challenge with the remaining fixtures.
And this season, you've picked up quite a lot of assists, and I remember seeing that your touch against Halifax. Why do you think you performed so well this season?
I just think it was just a case of freedom again. I think, Bromley, especially Neil Smith, they knew what they wanted from me straight away. They were very clear about how they wanted to play and what they wanted from me. I was given the opportunity to do that. And especially towards, the end of the season when we started picking up a lot of injuries, there were suspensions, we started losing players. It was a case of, you have to perform, and I like to think that I did take a lot of responsibility on myself in regards to trying to be a leader on the field, through my performances. And I think I did that. So, but again, that comes from the players that are around you with their trust in you, them wanting to get you on the ball, you making a mistake, and then players saying, no, don't worry, because we know next time you get the ball, you're going to do something. If you lose the ball and all the players go, oh, we won't give it in for 5 minutes. And that's part of being a team, though. It's part, having the trust in each other. And I think I got that from my players and my staff at Bromley.
Obviously, looking on to next year, we don't know what's going to happen, but what are your plans, obviously, looking in the next couple of years? Have you got aspirations, obviously, to get back to the Football League?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think, any player performing at our level that has, still got age on their side and is coming, for the right reasons, will always have that ambition. Obviously, I've signed a new 2-year deal with Bromley, which I'm delighted about, knowing where the club, before Corona, knowing where the club was going in regards to having the funding from a chairman that wants to make the Football League, the slow changes over time to the team, to the stadium, and having that clear direction of where the club wants to go. I want to be part of that. Due to moving to Oxford City, to Eastleigh, to Barnet, to Ebbsfleet, those first 3 moves of my career were because I was playing really well and I was moving up the leagues. But when you look at it, I was only staying at a club for a year and a half. Obviously, the Barnet was because it was a wrong decision, and Ebbsfleet because of what was happening behind closed doors. So I want to now build something at a club. I've been at Bromley for a year and a half, signed a new deal. I do believe that we've got building blocks to a great squad that can go on and get into, the league, depending on what happens with, the split league next year. Obviously, there's rumours about that. But the infrastructure at the club and the staff, everyone is there to help me progress, and that's what I want.
Do you want to go for your best 11?
Yeah, well, I actually, it caused me many problems. Yes, and I've got a few in regards to my formation, but Ashmore in goal, without a shadow of a doubt. Best goalkeeper I played with in the non-league. Mark Cousins, though, is a close second. He was just, for 6 months at Bromley before his injury, he was just fantastic. Some of the saves he made this year were just unbelievable. So he's a close second for me. I went with Joe Partington, right back from Eastleigh. Fantastic player, on and off the pitch. Great person in the changing room. Obviously got moved to Bristol Rovers in League One, which showed his ability. You don't get bought by a League One club if you're not a quality player. I went with Jack Holland and Chris Bush as my centre-backs. This year especially, they've been fantastic for us, but Bushy, obviously, from my time at Ebbsfleet as well, his versatility to play left-back as well is a massive. And I love having that left foot, right foot combination.
Free kick
Jack,
taker as well.
Pardon?
Free kick taker as well at centre-back.
Yeah, he does everything. He does everything. And it's always nice when you've got a player like that to combat it with a player like Jack Holland, who is a real leader. You know what you're getting, and he leads by, his attitude, his performance, and he's a great captain to have at a football club. My left back was probably my hardest decision to make, and I've gone with Sam Wood purely because I've had one of my best seasons. He's been behind me every game. He's let me play the way I want to play. He knows what I want to do and how I want to do it. And the amount of times he overlapped without getting the ball but didn't complain, sometimes he did complain, was obviously a real help for me. But Bushy's played left back behind me. I've had Jack Connors. Even people, like Bagassan Graham at Ebbsfleet. I played with, so, Michael Green at Eastleigh, I played with a mixture of left backs, so I played, such a good season. I know what I was getting week in, week out with Woody was a major help. My midfield three, I went for Jory, Raymond and Bingham. My two on the bench were actually Payne and Powell. That's really a toss-up for me. Jory, I played with at Eastleigh and Ebbsfleet, and even in training, he was just always one step ahead. And he always knew the run I wanted to make, and it was always simple. It was always two-touch. And playing with Raymond and Bingham this year, Billy Bingham, you can just see the league quality. And Raymond, I've played with now for a year and a half, and he understands my game a lot, which is, again, like I was reverting back to, obviously playing, why I played so well. It's good to play with players that know, your game. And then up front, I went with Whiteley, Cheek and myself. Obviously a three that did play together at a time with, Ebbsfleet, but me and Corey, especially playing alongside each other behind Kedwell, worked so well in that Ebbsfleet season. But then again, to have played a year with Cheek now, and we've got such a good relationship, and I love playing with him. He knows my game. He knows what I want. And Corey's such a fantastic player. At whatever level he's been at, he's such a good player. And we were lucky to obviously get him on loan at Bromley, which I was delighted about. So yeah, that was my 4-3-3. Mark Cousins on the bench, Brinley as well at Bromley, Andrew Santiago from Oxford, Payne, Powell, Porter and Wilson on my bench.
You have managing that team?
Oh, again, that's so tough. I mean, obviously two stick out for me, which is my current manager, Neil Smith, and Darryl McMahon. Again, different in their way, in their approaches. That's just a toss of a coin for me, really. Toss of a coin. Neil Smith gets the best out of every player. He's just such a good motivator, man manager, and he's just fantastic. Whereas Darryl McMahon was much more hands-on, would join in every training session, and wouldn't expect you to do anything that he couldn't do. And played a beautiful style of football. So that's just a toss of a coin for me.
One more question before you go. What is the best moment in your career?
Best moment in my career. Do you know what? Sadly, I've never had a promotion, and I've never won a trophy. Which is obviously what people go for straight away. So hopefully in my remaining, 6-7 years or, in football, that's going to happen for me. So, I mean, for me, it's more personal achievements. It's signing my first professional contract at Cardiff, making my first FA Cup appearance for Cardiff. Even being bought, like you said, being bought by Eastleigh, that for a lad that, went to 8 clubs and couldn't get anything, to then be bought by a record fee for a club, shows, that made me proud. And winning all 3 awards at Bromley this year, the supporters, players and managers player of the year, that, on a personal level, to be recognised for the work that you've done for a whole year, is significant. But again, I trade all of those things in to get a promotion, or to win a trophy at Wembley. So hopefully they'll come in the next few years.
Obviously, thanks for all your time, Luke. Good luck with Bromley. Honestly, yeah, all the best. Thanks for coming on, and stay safe.
Thank you very much, you guys. Well done. Thank you.
Cheers, Luke.
Cheers.
Bye.